And we're going to start with, we'll touch on kind of the top 5 great things about why streaming TV is exciting. I don't know if you know, but actually television entertainment is the second most expensive in the world in Canada. And so it's a really great time to see free television opportunities for everyday consumers, particularly given the context of what's happening globally. Our purse strings are getting a lot tighter, which is actually also a great opportunity for marketers. I'll talk about the top 5 free streaming TV advertising opportunities and how these two worlds are bridging, and then we'll end the video on what's next. So, first of all, no surprise that connected television is growing. And this is a combination of a few things. So whether it's a smart TV, and the smart TV ownership in Canada is actually really, really high. 78% of people, Canadian internet users, saying that they own either a smart connected TV or a streaming TV device like the one you see on the screen, which is a Roku device. What is also very, very interesting, and this is a relatively new statistic, is that of those people who are streaming TV content, so it could be Netflix, it could be some of the apps I just showed you on the screen grab previously that are available in the Canadian market by the local broadcasters, or also through Roku, through a free TV channel called the Roku channel. Of those that are streaming TV, if you are an advertiser or marketer, you can now reach roughly 38% of those audiences through advertising opportunities associated with free television. And this figure from 2020 has actually grown 239%. And so if you're a marketer and maybe you've not been in television advertising before, this is a really exciting time because there's a lot more on opportunity than just, for example, a 15 or a 30-second spot. So some of you may have really great design teams and maybe you have not been, doing video advertising. There are other opportunities to communicate this space. But let's watch a little video. Because Roku is also a TV advertiser in Canada. Can we have the volume up?
Okay. The best ideas are often the simplest, like streaming it easy. Okay, Roku does that.
The great thing about streaming TV is if you're paying over $100 Canadian dollars for your television packaging, you can now buy these small boxes and devices like Roku and access a lot of content for free. And Roku, just to give you some idea, if you've never heard of Roku before, we're a US-based company. The Roku box was actually incubated within Netflix. It was originally meant to be the Netflix box. And at the 12th hour, Reed Hastings, who is the CEO of Netflix, decided not to go down the hardware route. We're a hardware business. We're actually, a lot of people think, oh, it's a tech company, it's a digital company. No, we build hardware and we get it installed into retail stores. And when you buy those devices, we help connect you with what you love most, great premium programming. And what's really exciting specifically about the Canadian market is that there's growth in connected TV advertising, and the IAB puts that growth at roughly 65% year-on-year growth, with new brands coming in to try advertising in connected TV. It is premium content that marketers can associate themselves beside. And across Roku, for example, these are some of the key brands that we work with, including the top Canadian broadcasters. And working with Roku, you have the opportunity to actually advertise in the app streaming TV ecosystem. So whether it's for CBC, the Chorus channels, or CTV, and now obviously is Paramount Plus. So I don't know if you're keeping up, but there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions happening all over the world with television brands, including the Roku channel. And these are the kinds of environments. Now, what's amazing is this is DigiMarcon. Why am I standing here? Because the way that these ads are bought is digitally. So if, for example, you're used to booking ads with Google through the Google Marketing Suite, these ads can also be booked through the Google Marketing Suite. Or, for example, with Roku's own platform called OneView, which is a programmatic platform to help with booking video advertising. And so, what is actually possible? Can I have a show of hands? Anyone who has a Roku? I know I've got, wow, quite a lot in the room. I hope you're happy. Come and tell me afterwards what you like and don't like, and I'll try and get it back into the business. It's not just on-demand streaming. There's over 100 plus live channels of television programming. There's over 45,000 plus movies and shows that are ad supported. And one of the great things about the experience on Roku is at the moment, we actually don't even put an ad before you start a program. The ads start way into a series or a film. So if you're like testing, do I like this show? You might want to watch the first 1 or 2 minutes. You're not going to be forced to see an ad before you decide if you even like the content. And also, we just announced in the last few weeks a partnership globally with Apple Music. You can also stream Apple Music and Spotify on this platform. There are so many more emerging opportunities that we believe will be coming. So the point of being here to speak to you is to say, this might not be something that you're investing in today, but it might be a long-term strategy and on your horizon for where you and your business want to be in the immediate or near future. And so what else is amazing about free TV is the investment worldwide that businesses, including Roku, are making on original programming that are ad-supported. And we're working with some of the biggest brands and people in the world. So we've made original movies with Anna Kendrick. We have original series called Die Hard with Kevin Hart, and this is now on a repeat where he pretends to be his own stuntman, learning how to do stunts. It's very funny. I don't know if you've seen it. And then last week we announced that we've actually commissioned a movie with Daniel Radcliffe, and I'm actually going to show you now what that movie is.
Hope you guys are ready for this. Anyone got an accordion? What can I say? I'm full of surprises.
This is a movie that will be coming out in Q4 on the Roku channel through free live TV streaming. And we're making these opportunities for marketers and advertisers like you if this is the kind of environment that you want to be associated with. And not only do we have movies like this with Daniel Radcliffe, the Roku Originals actually celebrated its only 1-year anniversary last week in New York, where we actually announced a lineup of titles we have. We made 70 originals in the last 12 months, either on-site or through acquisition, through the Chaibi acquisition. And what's really great and exciting to tell you is the very first movie that we made as Roku was actually filmed in Canada, in Richmond Mall, in Toronto, and it was called Zoe's Christmas. And I'll show you some examples of what that is. But I'm a proud Canadian, so I was like, okay, I'm very happy if Roku does that. That was our ad, so I definitely buy into that. So we did 70 in the last 12 months. We've got a lineup of 50 exceptional titles in the next 12 months. We're working with Reese Witherspoon, with Jessica Alba, whether they're on very short lifestyle programs. We've got the judges from the great Bake Off in the UK, which is where I live. They're going to be doing a great Bake Off also in the USA. And not only is it just USA content, we are looking outside of the USA to build a further pipeline. Now, we just saw all of the chaos of what's happening with SEO, and I think one of the most important things to say is, well, there's so much changing around us, and I can absolutely appreciate, because I've been in marketing for 20 years, and how you're like, okay, we need to be on Insta now, don't move to TikTok, but what about Snapchat? But don't forget your SEO, and who dropped the ball on the website? Yes, we're all nodding. Television is still relatively stable and a trusted environment. And if you have a boss who's a CMO, let's be honest, worldwide, most CMOs in a lot of countries are only lasting 3.5 years. in their jobs, which is the shortest tenure of C-suites in the boardroom. That makes all of our lives harder. The great thing about the stability of television and that it's trusted is you're also in a position to build a long-term strategy around communications in television. And I'm going to come on to show you some examples of the benefit. Now, previously, maybe the floor of entry into television was very, very high. What connected television is doing is it's actually opening up the possibility for other smaller brands and more niche brands to come in to play into this ecosystem and be associated with premium content. So just as a baseline, what are the great things around advertising in a streaming TV environment? Well, for example, if you buy ads on Google, you might be very excited if you get a 40% completion rate, or maybe a 20% view through beyond 7 seconds. And while that's acceptable in digital, we get near 100% completion rates of our advertising that are stitched in between the free programming. It's obviously full screen, it's on a television. The sound is normally on because you're watching television, unless some of you are watching quietly on your own. What's really, really cool about some of the things with some Roku devices is they actually have a headphone jack, and so you can watch and have the sound go directly into just for you listening, even though there might be a room of other people doing different things. We're watched by humans. There's a lot of non-human traffic that you have to fight through, like the example Dale gave earlier with SEO, when you realize that all of the traffic you're missing are bots that are no longer scraping your site. It is robust, and I'll come on to show you examples of measurement in television. It is brand safe. The ads are pre-cleared. Things do have to be built in a certain way and to a certain standard to advertise in this environment. We take our audience's experiences very, very seriously. There's obviously shared viewing, but the great thing also about programming, like the clip I just showed you for the Weird Al Yankovic movie, is that there are network effects always around television. In fact, most social environments, they thrive on the social currency of media and entertainment content. So there's always a halo effect when you're associated with these kinds of programming. We just launched the announcement of the movie last week. And for example, on YouTube, on the Weird Al's channel, he had over 500 million views of the video in less than a week. And in case anyone missed the news, it's getting bigger. So Disney Plus and Netflix have announced in the last few weeks that they will start to offer ad-supported tiering, most likely by the end of the year. So this environment is premium, it's growing, and the opportunities coming into the ecosystem for advertisers is getting bigger. So for anyone who's spending money in social media environments, or you have video inventory and video advertising, or even your own video assets that you're using in other mediums, this is the time now to consider coming into streaming TV advertising. Why? Even, for example, when you're searching in our environments, we really try and be audience-centric first. So this is a search for a movie, and what you can see is that this particular audience member had the movie on Prime in their subscription, they can watch it, but we also make sure that if a movie or a series is available free, we're trying to communicate to you, to the audience, that there's a free opportunity to watch something before having to pay or a paywall. So, what also is important if you're a marketer, probably your CFO and the teams that you work with, they love digital for the metrics and the measurement that you can provide. What is also amazing is that when there is TV advertising, if you tie it back to digital, I'll come on to show you an example, you can see incremental impact relatively quickly. Now, what's exciting about working with Roku is all of our data is first-party data. We do not work in a cookied environment. We do not have issues with cookie deprecation. It's registered audience bases. And because we are the ecosystem of what people are accessing, we can see who's watching, for example, our channel, who's watching Netflix, and who's watching other ad-supported channels. And we can do the work with you to understand if you've advertised in one location, maybe you don't want to advertise there again. You can say, don't show ads to that, and you can start to build an incremental plan to make sure that you're reaching the right kinds of audiences that matter for your brand and the target audience that you care about. So the good news is that even though a lot of audiences have gone behind paywall, they're coming back. And that's a great news for the marketers in the room who may have had audiences that were becoming virtually impossible to reach through other means. And what we do know, for example, is these are the kind of estimated numbers that we're seeing, for example, on the Canadian market. What we're looking at is just specifically audiences that are paying for streaming. So if I was a marketer and if my audience, if I used to, for example, be a TV marketer, and now they're on Netflix, how do I find that audience again? I'm going to show you some examples of what we're trying to do to help you reach those audiences, even if the consumer is spending 90% of their time within the Netflix environment. So we know, for example, of the over 24 million internet users in Canada, roughly half of them are the payer for subscription video on demand services. And we know, for example, roughly 6.5 million of those are luxury buyers. And we're working with our clients to explain to them what the reach is of those kinds of audiences, and then how you can still continue to reach them within the Roku environment. And so here's some examples. If, for example, your audiences are massive Netflix users, what we do is we have opportunities where you can be the stream itself. So there's the ability to sponsor program. Maybe you want to sponsor a movie for free so that audiences can watch it. So let's say, for example, you're a retailer and you have sports fans. Maybe there's a sporting movie that you want to sponsor, and that's how you can reach your audiences. Or you can surround the stream. You can be the theme and the skins in the television environment to be able to get exposure, or actually present the stream itself, i.e., you can make your own branded content in these environments. We do have major brands globally that have their own channels. And here's some examples. As I said to you, Zoe's Extraordinary Christmas was the first movie we made. It won a Critics' Choice Award, and it was produced in Canada. And we sort of, I don't know if you've heard the saying, eat our own dog food, where we also promote within our ecosystem. When you log into the Roku environment, we have billboards. And actually, does anyone know what the footfall of the Yonge and Dundas Square is on a daily basis? You want to take a guess? I did a lot of research on this. 10,000 people a day? 50,000? That's a nice number on a daily basis. I think there's 6 million people in Toronto, so that would need to be one out of 6. It's about 100,000 people a day that go past those billboards, and when there's a major event, it's 300,000 people. If you're a brand that's doing outdoor advertising, you should absolutely starting to be considering connected TV, because we have some very similar types of experiences where if you have billboards, you have bus stops, or you have like major poster signage, there are environments now in connected TV that are display, and it's not all about video. And these are what I would call high traffic footfall areas into the ecosystem before someone goes into Netflix. And these are your opportunities to reach the audiences that you may thought have become unreachable. And so here's an example of Glenfiddich. What they did is they created a themed environment, and when it was COVID, this is how an alcoholic brand was actually trying to help people. They said, okay, you may not be able to travel today, but we're going to give you a themed environment and help you still look at all the inspiration of what you could be doing as soon as the borders open. And so they actually sponsored all of the different travel channels within the Roku ecosystem, and they had their own video as well. These are some of the examples that are coming into streaming TV experiences. So it looks partially like, the early days of digital, and also the beauty and excellence and premium content experiences of television. And so what also is great about the environment of connected streaming TV advertising is that all of the kind of connectors you have to work with in the digital ecosystem to prove the effectiveness of your work are also part of the ecosystem in TV. So for example, we have shoppable ads with QR codes. You do have the ability to look at, I'm going to show you 2 examples of other brands from the UK that are marrying up their TV and their search activity to justify how to even get the CFO to unlock money to spend on television, because come on, it's exciting to advertise on TV. me, and also work with social. So here, for example, here's a brand, TurboTax, and they were hosting the college football playoffs. They said, here are the channels that you may be able to access this content. But what you can see is in the right-hand corner, they actually put a snap code on TV. So just before the games were playing, if you scanned the snap code, you would then end up in Snapchat, and you could actually do Hoops Playoff while you were waiting for the game to begin. So here's some interactive TV plus social experiences that different brands are experimenting with. We also, the good news, as I said, is it's measurable. And if any of you follow Les Binet or Peter Field, these are some of the most prolific experts when it comes to marketing effectiveness in the world. They have published papers called The Long of the Short of It. What they're also doing is they're looking at the correlation between search and TV programming. And for example, some of you may work with some of these partners. These companies will help with doing your first-party data fusion. Maybe you're doing advertising and you're pulling that data, and you then need to stitch it to your marketing automation and trying to understand what your ROI is on your marketing. Or maybe you need to do Foursquare. We work with Foursquare. So if you're a particular utilities brand, for example, they may do advertising on TV and then they want to see what the activation is offline. These types of capabilities are available because we have a registered first-party data relationship with our audiences. We're able to help marketers explain to their business what is an effective use of budget and how there's a return on investment back to the business. So whether it's footfall into a retailer's shop, you might be able to work out what the pre-campaign, post-campaign lift is, or if you have test and control, maybe by regionality as an example. So one particular brand was trying to just focus on the downtown Toronto area for their campaign. And these are the kinds of things you can now do. Because the streaming TV is digital, we have a lot more what's called deterministic data to work out maybe there's a geolocation fencing that needs to be done in order to set up your communications and minimize the wastage if you're not like a West Coast brand, for example. And so what I've got for you here, this is a slide from a company called ThinkBox in the UK. They're the television trade body. And this is the graph of a secondhand used car sale. In fact, I've got two brands here that are kind of like recycling, upcycling brands. So I thought it was quite appropriate because I know that we're good we're good on our Greenpeace and loving sustainability and recycling in Canada. And what this brand did is they were never in television before, and they had an experimentation phase, which is the bottom part of the graph. And what they did is they were mapping how much coverage did they have on their TV campaign. And then they were doing on and off and mapping, for example, even the weather, if the weather has impact on some people's brands. And then what they were doing is they were overlaying the effect of search and then the uplift on visitation to their digital assets. And what they were able to do in the experimentation phase was to say, work out what was the impact of television advertising to then be able to do test and learn, which is what you can do with streaming TV, to then work out how do you scale fully into television. Another brand, Vinted, which is a used clothing app. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. You can buy secondhand clothing. It's also available in Canada. They're also doing very much the same thing. So what they'll do is they'll overlay the TV exposures to the search volume that they're having. And what they found, a lot of these brands that are doing this as a way to find their way into television, if let's say you're a website and you have a 4% conversion of sale in shopping, what they're finding is that typically that 4% ratio stays roughly the same, but what television does is it unlocks a mass amount of volume of exposure. So if let's say in digital, you had a 10,000 people a day exposure and it's a 4% conversion. If you move into TV, it's 100,000 plus people exposure, depending on what you've booked, and the 4% conversion. And effectively, we're all businesses, like Byron Sharp from the Edinburgh Bass Institute says, we must build from reach. And so the ratios stay roughly the same. What you unlock is the exposure. And there are brand new industries, particularly direct to consumer, that are absolutely now being built off the back of television because they have to build the category as well as their brands in that category, particularly like food delivery. Direct-to-consumer apps are doing very, very well in the television space. And so that kind of brings me on to where are digital and TV having to come closer together? And what I would say is, if you're a small brand, you probably may have started off your growth hacking. So you've got zero budget, you're focusing on branded content, you're trying to build the communities, and eventually, we all want to be really, really big brands. You want to get to the point where you're like a Coca-Cola of tomorrow. And what that process looks like with streaming TV is that the bar to entry coming into advertising television has been lowered. And in other countries, what we're seeing is even if you're a brand that has like, say, a 7% reach into the population, this may have been maybe even too small on major broadcasters, but because it's being programmatically bought, you're able to come into the ecosystem in a way that you were not able to before. And so some brands may find they've maxed out on SEO, they've maxed out on what they can achieve with Meta and with Alphabet, but you need a justification to your C-suite on how to make the jump into the next spend. And it's a different environment. You can do test and learn, you can do performance, but then you will have the opportunity to grow into media and audience buying at a much bigger base with information that can help you through the ecosystem. And that's what we're here to do. We've got a great team on the ground. They're very seasoned. They understand the difficulties that marketers are facing on trying to scale businesses, how to learn programmatic. You need to justify your incremental reach. And this is the intersection where all of the excellence of digital is also being applied to TV to make that leap into this new environment. So what's actually going to come next? Let's have a look.
Christmas this year is gonna be rough. We need a little Christmas.
I went out of pocket to buy toilet paper for the women's room.
Happy streaming, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. Do we have time for questions? No time for questions. Is it a break now? No? Okay, I'm off stage. Thank you, everyone.